Welcome to the Sean Trey Show. I have a really awesome guest with me tonight. Now, who are you? And can you introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you do?
Yeah, my name's Ross. Thanks for having me on today. Been looking forward to this. I'm a DP and a photographer.
Nice.
So I've been doing this now about, I guess, as a full-time job about 7-8 years now.
Very cool.
And been freelance for about the past 2 years.
Okay.
With COVID and everything, it kind of like,
It
all
changed
the
up the
years
game.
it did. And I actually went freelance right as COVID started, so I couldn't have timed it any better.
Yeah,
but
perfect time.
it ended up being one of the best decision I've ever made. I
Tell me
wouldn't
about
change
that.
it or anything.
How so?
It was, so I was staffed at a true crime television company here in Knoxville, where I live, and I had DP'd there for 3 years on one of their television shows, and I was starting to get a lot of other outlets for work, and that kind of made me want to explore, kind of branching out on my own and being able to kind of do what I want, when I want. So, yeah, it was, I guess, March of 2020, last year. And I'd kind of come to a good agreement with the company to be able to go freelance, but to also still be able to do my show,
Nice.
which was it was a win-win. And so that was at the beginning of March. And then, 3 weeks later, bam, COVID hits.
Yeah.
Everything shut down. And I'm like, good idea.
Yeah, right.
But it was it was a little uncertain there for about a month. Everything was really shut down.
Yeah.
But we took good precautions and were able to come back.
Nice.
Back, I think, May. So I was able to still constantly work. It looked a lot different, obviously.
Yeah.
Reduced crew sizes, masks, we had to wear face shields, temperature checks. So there was an adjustment to it. And as far as, acting out these scenes, because I kind of do like the recreations of the crimes and stuff. So actors couldn't be within 6 feet of each other. And so it was really
had to reenact a crime with people 6 feet apart.
Yeah. So you really had to work some movie magic with it. But, it was something that challenged me, I think, to kind of figure out how to, make it happen.
Yeah.
And with blocking and camera angles and all that. So I feel like it really kind of, helped me, with my skill set and everything. It's starting to loosen up a little bit, but, there's still precautions and everything that take place. So it was interesting, but we had a great team and everything ended up working out, and never had any sort of COVID scares or anything. So everybody did a great job.
That's awesome. Yeah,
kind of keeping up with it.
Yeah, and if you kind of dot your I's and cross your T's, you should be okay.
Yeah,
now, that's a couple of interesting points that you brought up, and I want to kind of dive back in. How did you get started in this profession? How did you get into cinematography and photography?
I'll date it back to when I was in elementary school and everything.
All right, nice.
As a kid, I never really took pictures, never made videos or anything. Every once in a while, I would go into my dad's closet and get his old high 8mm tape recorder and take it out every once in a while. But I would come home from school. My parents would get me like a pack of notebook paper, put it in the binder, and not even 2 days later, I'd come home just full of drawings, no notes, nothing.
Nice.
I would just doodle, drive my parents crazy. But I always kind of had that creative side to me. And it wasn't really till I transformed that into kind of like the photo video aspect until I guess it was 2010 or 2011, I believe. My aunt got married, and it was just kind of like a family wedding, but she handed me a camera and said, would you care to put this on a tripod during the ceremony, hit record? And, I was like, sure. And then as that happened, it kind of sparked my curiosity, and ended up just kind of like walking around with the camera, filming different family members, and then dumped it on a computer, did some editing, and I was like, this is pretty fun. And just started to play around with it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I was at college down in Chattanooga, pursuing actually a criminal justice major.
Nice.
But that kind of like sparked my interest, and I kind of got into the criminal justice program and was like, I don't know if it's for me. And so I ended up, long story short, coming back to Knoxville, and there's a great program here at Pellissippi State, the community college here in town, that has a great video program. So did that.
Nice.
That really, kicked off my my curiosity with it, and from there just kind of got some internships. Started out actually doing some live sports broadcasting for like the local minor league hockey team and everything. And I remember after the internship ended, they still kept me on to do the broadcasting. And when I got that first check, I was like, okay, you can make some money doing this. It wasn't a lot. I think, maybe it was like $50 at most for one game, but I was like, what?
It's money.
it's money. It's a start. So, from there it just kind of evolved, and I started meeting different people in the community and just kind of getting connected with different companies around town and doing commercials and things like that. And I didn't actually really land my first full-time video job. I bounced around. I worked at FedEx unloading the airplanes, and then I worked at the Apple store, all while on the side kind of doing video things here and there and really wanting to pursue that full-time. And then one day I got a call after I had graduated from the true crime company
Nice.
here in town that had a position, and I was like, let's do it. So, and it's interesting because even just the last 10 years with this, it's been such a ride because it's transformed so much from what it looked like in the beginning.
Yeah. Right.
Starting out doing the internship with the sports broadcasting, and the company that I worked for as well, they also did some music festivals.
Okay.
So that was kind of where my whole music industry started with this. So that, they did things like Bonnaroo and Forecastle and some really great festivals. So from there, it just kind of started, video and photo kind of go hand in hand.
Right. Yeah.
And kind of side note, growing up playing football, I was a kicker and a punter.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to do both, which was kind of big for like scholarships for college.
Nice.
So I kind of took that mindset into kind of like the video photo world. Cause they're so similar. There's a few learning curves between the two, but it's all the same mindset, all the same, framing, composition, exposure. So that kind of transformed me into kind of picking up a photo camera and just kind of starting to run with that. And I really kind of found my passion with that in music, the live music industry, the touring industry.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I've been at the last couple of years. Of course, last year was a very long year for the live music industry, and it's been awesome to kind of, see what happened to it last year with it, almost dying off.
Yeah.
But now kind of like almost like a rebirth of it.
It's beautiful.
And just seeing everybody out there and just enjoying it. I think it gives it a whole new meaning. And, people realize, how important music was. And, I just love to be out there capturing all the emotions, because there's so many stories to tell during a concert. With the crowd, with the band on stage, off stage. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. And it's been a fun ride. And, I don't even know what the next 10 years are going to bring, but, hopefully it's going to be similar to what the last 10 years have.
That's really awesome. No, I like that point that you brought up about the similarities. I find that one of the things that's interesting and I got to work in both LA, which is the industry, and outside of LA, which is, and then one of the things that you notice in LA, people coming up in the system, they really focus on specialization. Like, it's really interesting that, like, you are, and my friend Andrew talked about that, a DOP who came on the other night, Andrew Rollins, and he was like, he came up in the system in Australia. And one of the things that he was talking about is, like, it was literally about just, these are the steps, and then about putting in your time. And it's like, it's not necessarily that you pick the job, you literally take the job they give you, you learn all the skills at that job, and you try to learn everything you can at that level, and then you move up to the next level. And I saw that, but yet that system for me has always been challenging for me, because you're constantly stuck at the whims of someone else and the dictation of someone else's, like this, right? One of the things, I studied martial arts, and I always really loved my teacher, right? Because he had these lists, and the second you passed, you knew all the techniques on that list, you were ready to test for that list, and he'd let you test, and you could move up to your next belt. Versus there are some schools that it's entirely at the will of the teacher as to when you get your next belt. And granted, they want to preserve the tradition and have things, and it's like, but yet it's like, you don't know when you're going to get that advancement. And and I've been into some schools like that, and you see the student that's like really good friends with the teacher, he starts moving up quick. Versus this guy over here who's not playing those games, he's stuck at his white belt for 15 years, But I worked in production outside of the LA industry as well, and you have to wear a lot of hats. Like right now for this podcast, right? We're stuck in Vietnam. I'm in Vietnam. We just exited a lockdown, and it was a tough one for us too. I lost my production team. I had a bunch of editors, a bunch of assistants, a bunch of people. So right now, when I shoot this podcast, I'm doing all the scheduling. I'm doing all the booking. I'm doing all of the getting people in. I'm doing all the recording. I set up all the cameras. I do all the lights. I'm doing hair and makeup for myself. Beforehand, before we're rolling, I'm doing all, it's like I do everything beginning to end. But there are parts of me that I was sitting there the other day thinking, it's going to be really cool. I hope down the road when I can get this really going and I can have a group of people that are sitting there helping me with stuff, so who can just help with different things, so I can come in and just do the talking and do stuff like that. But at the same time, when you're forced to wear lots of hats, it makes you adapt and to learn. And like that's the great thing, is if you can adapt and you force yourself to kind of think outside the box, you really get a step ahead of a lot of people who are operating in the box. Now, there was something that you said that I really want to ask you about that's really interesting to me about what you said about when you were shooting with COVID and how it forced you to kind of, we all that are in the field get into our patterns. It's like you get, all right, this is how we're going to do it. Yeah. This is how we set up the shot. This is how we do this.
Get into the rhythm, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, something comes along, and you're like, oh, damn, can't do that. Like yesterday, I was shooting a music video for my wife, and I wanted to order a Fresnel, a spotlight, a small spot, small Fresnel from behind that we were going to use to kind of create this silhouette effect.
Yeah.
They sent me I sent everything off to the rental company, but I couldn't go over there, so I had to have someone who could go and travel because of the lockdown, go get the stuff for me. He picked it up, came back, and all of a sudden it was like a big LED panel. I was like, this is
not what I ordered.
not in any way, shape, or form what I was looking for or what I needed. And so I had to adapt, and I busted out a big old ring light, and I set it behind my wife and kind of created this halo effect. And I was like, it wasn't what I was trying to do, but I was like, I don't have a Fresnel right now, so let's see what I can do. But I mean, it was being forced to adapt. Now, can you tell me more about some of the things that you were faced with and how you kind of handled those challenges?
Yeah, specifically when we were on set for that, we used to, and kind of speaking to, wearing different hats. We had a producer, a director, a DP, an AC, props, hair, makeup. So we had a pretty solid crew.
Yeah.
Well, once COVID happened, they really had to reduce the size of that. So I had to play the role of DP, AC, PA at times.
Yeah.
So it was, something that made me kind of take a step back and, really realize how much of a team effort it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
It really is. I mean, and we're just now getting to the point where we're bringing back the PAs and ACs, which I'm beyond thrilled about.
Right.
But it was, and like I said, with the blocking, with moving the actors around and trying to keep the 6 feet and all that, it really made it difficult, because some of those scenes, if it was, acting out the backstory of the relationship of, the characters, if it was, a couple that's supposed to be married, obviously, they're going to be, close,
physically
but,
close. Yeah.
it was, I mean, it was a matter of like, having to like stack them and, kind of changing the perspective and, kind of tricking it, making it look like it's, that they're stacked on top of each other.
Did you ever see any of the stuff from Peter Jackson about how he shot the forced perspective to like make Gandalf look big and Frodo look small? The magic that you can pull in with a camera is amazing. It's hard.
Yeah.
But it's amazing.
I tried to pull my best Peter Jackson, but I think he still got me beat on a couple of levels. but no, it was.
You got time, man.
Who knows? Maybe the next 10 years, we'll see. But no, it was a challenge. But at first it was very frustrating. But then kind of once I took a step back, caught my breath, I turned it more into embracing it as a challenge.
Nice.
And like you said, being in LA, people in other kind of like big industry areas, people like to specialize. So, you got DPs, but within DPs, you got Steadicam ops, you got, jib operators and things. So, which it's great to have people who are specialized with that. But, on our end, it was kind of like they threw you in and they were like, kind of need to know how to do it all.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, it was kind of like baptism by fire, which was great. It forced me to learn it. And now I feel like I have a skill set that can really kind of carry me far and long in this industry. So that, there was a lot of silver linings to COVID happening. And, and I think the biggest one was just still having work. Because I know there were so many people in the industry that lost work and went through really tough times, and some people still haven't recovered. So I felt very fortunate. My wife works here in town in events as well, and her industry was pretty impacted as well. But similar to me, they did kind of find some pockets that people were able to still do some things and kind of keep them going. And so it was an interesting time, and we're by far still not through it yet, but the sun, it seems like it is starting to shine through. I think the industry, it's going to look like this for a while. I think
that people wearing masks and kind of having a little bit more social distancing is going to be the new norm for maybe a couple years. But people, I think that, like what you're saying though, people have started to see how to get workarounds. How to kind of, because honestly, at the end of the day, if you can create a new workflow, then you can manage. I mean, it might not always be easy, but you can figure out your workflows, because that's, to me, when I have built out productions here, that's one of the most important things for me, is figuring out my workflow. And so.
And there were new things introduced too with COVID, in the industry. Like there was a lot of, I know there was a couple of times that, celebrities would gather on like a Zoom call and have like a table read of Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I know that was a big one that a lot of celebrities came to for like a, charity and did. So there was a lot of, different types of content that were to be made for, COVID and stuff. So there was an aspect of it that I think kind of gained work.
This is like what I'm doing here. One of the things is I was kind of looking at Ariel. One of the biggest MMA reporters is Ariel Hawani, and he has like his MMA show podcast, that he kind of streams, I think, on Bleacher Report. But one of the interesting things about that is it used to always be that, you do these shows like any type of, Jimmy Fallon or, Kimmel, or go back to the old guys, Johnny Carson and stuff. Mm-hmm. You fly someone out, you sit them down, and you talk to them. But one of the interesting things with, the creation of Zoom, and I love this one that I'm using, Riverside. They're not paying me, but I like it because it records separate video and audio streams. So in post, I can clean up my audio individually. I can clean up yours individually. When you're trying to cut a Zoom call, it's not so easy, It's just one audio stream. And so this is really cool like that. And I think that the technology has definitely changed the game. I don't think for actors that they're going to be flying people much of anywhere up until it's kind of like a final casting, or like come and meet the people, because why would they want to when you can just have them on a Zoom call and see them for most everything? Because it's so I think that COVID has kind of been a game changer, and I don't know if some of the stuff will go back the way it was.
Yeah, I think that people have seen that there's some things that have worked and some things that have not. So I think that's going to like transition and kind of mold into kind of like this new look once we kind of come out in this post-pandemic era. But, it was kind of, with the true crime, going back to that, there were a couple of things where, we'd send a crew out into the field, wherever the crime took place. They'd go into the, community and interview some local law enforcement, some local expert witnesses in the community, families if they were willing. But some of that turned into actually doing Zoom interviews.
Really?
So it really, kind of turned around from actually sitting down, lighting an interview to just setting up a Zoom and doing it that way. So it's going to be something to look back on, as you're watching some of the episodes, and if you see the Zoom interview, you'd be like, oh, this is a COVID episode. But it really was. It was a big learning experience I was grateful for, and still learning, and kind of flipping pages to concerts. The band that I do tour around with, we were fortunate enough to actually have a show or two last year during COVID, but it was potted out, and the logistics of it, the planning and the infrastructure that they implemented was fabulous.
That's awesome.
It was couldn't have gone smoother with the times, and I've been shot Bonnaroo and all these big stages. That's and awesome. Everything, but I think those shows, even potted out, there wasn't necessarily as many people, but I think the energy at those shows, because people were just so psyched, it kind of another silver lining in it all. And it I know the band was grateful to be out there and everything, and I've actually talked to quite a bit of people, because now with concerts, it's kind of the system is either vaccination card or negative COVID test, and but last year with the pod shows, you kind of had your own little space, and I've talked to so many people that are like, I don't know if I wanted to go back to normal. I kind of liked having my own little barricade and own little spot, and of course it made it easier for me getting from front of house to stage and all that, but it was a cool time to be in the industry. It was a little nerve-wracking because there was some uncertainty, but coming out of it, looking back on it, it was a very unique time to look back, and I got some images and some footage that we probably won't ever get to see that type of, hopefully, fingers crossed, that we won't ever really have those type of environments at a concert anymore with potting out. And
you look at the some of the photos people were getting out of New York or other major cities where there was just no one out. It's crazy. Like, and it's just absolutely insane to see the transformation that we went through. But that's really cool. Now, you touched on a couple things, and I want to ask you about. So one of the things that I want to ask you about is what it's like shooting concerts, because my friend growing up, my best friend Timmy, his uncle was living in Hong Kong, and he was the big guy in Hong Kong for shooting concerts. And every single major act that came through He was the one that was backstage shooting everything. He was shooting, everything. And like I went over and I had never thought about that. I was, younger, and my friend was like, take a look at this. You like photography? I was like, yeah. He's like, look at this. And it was his uncle's book with all of the images that he'd, taken. They were the best, not all of them, but the best images that he'd taken from these bands for, like 40 years. It was insane. I was just, oh my God.
Yeah.
And it's mind blowing, it's like to see some of these images of some of these people. How do you approach shooting music and concerts?
Yeah, it's an interesting, I guess, industry within the industry to shoot live music.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly enjoy the backstage stuff because that's where you can really get the great portraits, the storytelling.
Yeah.
You see what the band is like off stage. Everybody sees what they're like on stage. But just kind of like the pre-show moments where they're sitting there, they're kind of getting in the zone. Those are some of my favorite moments to capture. And the band that I tour with is Moon Taxi, and
Okay, cool.
over the years I've been now with them, I guess about 3 years. And over the years I've developed great chemistry, which I would say for anybody that gets into touring with a band. Before you take any picture of them, definitely develop chemistry, because it's so important to have that with, positioning and posing and just kind of being on the same page. Where a lot of my shots are candid. I like to think of myself as a candid photographer. But there are moments where, in certain environments where it's cool to kind of set up or give them a prop or something. But I've been fortunate in this industry to meet some really great mentors that have helped me along the way. Don Van Cleve.
Nice.
I got to meet Danny Clinch the other day at a festival we were at, and
very cool.
He gave me one of his photo books, and his archives are from Beyonce to Springsteen. I mean, it's such a wide range. And so I've been very fortunate, to have, guys like that I can look up to, and meet on a personal level and really kind of help guide me through this industry, because it's not easy. I get a lot of people that ask me, so like, how do you do it? Like, how do I get my end with it? And it, for me, it started here in town, just getting free photo passes to go to shows, shooting the first 3 songs. And I did that for probably 2 years. Would just go take pictures of the first 3 songs for free before I even got my first paycheck from a venue. So it wasn't an overnight thing. It was something I loved doing, so I wanted to keep at it. And I mean, I would definitely tell anybody that, don't get discouraged if, the money or the, consistent touring doesn't come right off the bat. If you just keep your head down, do your best work, that'll come. Just, kind of keep that in the back of your mind, but just, put your talents first. And
I think people gotta hustle. And like, that's something that everyone, there's a lot of talent out there, and you can, if you save up, for, a young photographer, you can score yourself a Canon, brand new, nice spanking new Canon with a nice, 24-70 lens, and go out and do some cool stuff. Right there, you've got a nice packet to start. But you still have to go and be, creating stuff. You got to be sharing it. And that's one of the things too. I think a lot of people, there was a singer recently that was just, and I respect this decision, but a singer that I was interviewing, and they deleted a lot of their accounts and social media. And I was like, in this day and age, it's a delicate dance, because if you are a creative, I understand the feeling of not enjoying social media and not having everything out there, but to get ahead in this industry, you have to be able to share and share what you're doing and networking and putting yourself out there, and so it's tricky. It's tricky to balance sometimes the personal and that, but at the end of the day, it's about hustling.
It is. And building that portfolio, that's another thing I say is just these shots you get, they're not for nothing,
No,
they're
exactly.
great practice. You build that portfolio, and then, I say, shoot it to the bands. I can't tell you how many even bigger bands, that I see that, they'll go to a venue and, just a house photographer there,
Right.
that those are the pictures they use. And I mean, your break could be at any point,
Yeah.
you never know. It could be any show, any shot.
There was one thing I was thinking, like, I was having a discussion the other day with my friend, and I'm building out this podcast now. And some of the videos get great views. Some of them get horrible views. And I was just like, and they're like, are you worried about that? I was like, no, not at all. And they're like, why not? Because the fact that it's up and that I have created it and it's part of this thing, people can find it. And, it might be in it as well. Like, I might make this video with someone, and then 2 years from now, they get like a lucky break, or they get their big break, and I'm just, and I've got one of the first interviews with them. You know what I mean? And it's like,
yeah, oh yeah,
you never know, and so right there, I think that it's important to, like, when you are creating that portfolio, like you said, you never know what's going to be the thing that's like the thing.
And something I try to abide by and remind myself of is, fulfillment over following. So I see some, people on
Yes.
Instagram and social media that have 20,000 followers, and you look at their work and it,
Yes.
I'll look at somebody that has 600 followers and look at their work, and I'm like, wow, the person with the 600 followers work really speaks to me more than the, 20,000.
This is something. My wife is a famous singer here in Vietnam, and we were having this discussion the other day. She was the first winner of Vietnam Idol, and she's a big rock star. She's a cool person. But we had this discussion, and she was like, she's never made musical choices that were popular. She did stuff that she loved, and she did stuff that she felt, happy with. And one of the days, last week, she sat down and she's like, I don't have as many views as the other singers, but I don't care. And I was like, well, tell me about that. And she said, if I listen to my music and then I listen to other people's music, like, I can tell that people are drawing influence from what I'm doing. You know what I mean? And and she's seen where we did something for her first, and then other people had kind of copied it. And she wasn't angry. She felt like, she's like, I'm doing something right. If people are seeing what we're doing and then they kind of emulate that's a big deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, and I think that that's what people should be thinking about too, is it's like, that whole, there is a, that's one of the trade-offs in this modern algorithmic age. You need quantity. You do need quantity. Mm-hmm. But the reality is quality is still more important.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Couldn't agree more.
You got to be putting stuff out. You got to feed the machine. But if you're just dumping stuff that's not that great, then it's not helping you.
Yeah, and Instagram just rolled out the new, you can hide the likes, which I think is one of the best features they've done, because I think too many people get caught up in how many likes you get. I think that's the name of the game. And social media is such a powerful tool, but it's also, it is. I like to think of it as a necessary evil.
I 100% agree. 100% agree.
To get your work out there and seen, and, it ultimately, for me, it leads to a lot of work. But I feel like it also causes that anxiety and that FOMO, and that, to an unhealthy point, like, I got to keep doing more. For
me, I'm with you, because right now I have to message people, and I'm messaging people that I find interesting, but I'm constantly searching, trying to find people that are doing cool stuff. And one of the things, though, like, I almost got to the point of, like, I got to keep looking, and then I just had to go, it is time to set your phone down, to step back, and to just sit and breathe. And I was just like, got to do a little moment of Zen, breathing and such, just kind of disconnect. But it helped. And then one of the things I noticed with that is when you can disconnect like that, it gives you the space to kind of get ready for things to come in,
Absolutely.
And always something will spin. Now,
Yeah.
are you kind of a gearhead? Are you, big on the stuff? Like, are you like playing with the stuff? What are you shooting on right now? Or what's your go-to camera, if you don't mind me asking?
I have a couple of different setups that I use. For photo,
Nice.
I use a shoot Canon right now. I'm on a 1DX Mark II. It's kind of like my
Nice.
workhorse. It's for photo, especially for concerts. It's got the great burst mode. Makes it real easy. For video,
honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I like Canon color. I love Canon color. They've got that sensor dialed in, man.
I have a little like Fuji.
So Fuji's got nice colors too.
Like just one of these little guys.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted a fixed lens to throw in a backpack for trips and stuff to run around, and I'm enjoying that. But it's kind of more of just kind of like a travel camera for me rather than a work camera. But yeah. So my wife this year was awesome for my birthday and actually got me a red Komodo.
I was gonna say, did you get a red Komodo for your birthday?
I did, and it I think it was back ordered for like 4 months. I mean, literally just came in the mail last week, and actually
nice.
we had a show in Birmingham last night, and that was my first time getting it up and running and everything. And
how was it?
I'm pretty psyched to get all the footage dumped and start editing it. It looked pretty good, so I'm thrilled with it.
I'm leaning in that direction. I've been shooting Blackmagic for a while, and I really enjoy their small form factors, like the Pocket Cinema 6K is really a nice little camera.
I have one of those as well. And so now it's kind of like my secondary camera. I'm going to be renting the Red out, so if that's rented out, then I have that as a backup. But I agree with you. I mean, the form factor on that thing is phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, it's so tiny, man. It's just like it
is.
I've got it set up with the small rig with 2 handles, and it's just nice, man. Yeah,
that's what I like about the Komodo. Reds can get pretty cumbersome and big, but the Komodo, I mean, it's
tiny, dude. It's tiny. I was talking. My friend Andrew has said that on a lot of big, like on Bond, they were using the Komodo in place of GoPros and stuff because it's so small that you can build out this nice little package, and he said that they were doing some stuff that's crazy with it.
You can build it out, make it feel big, or you can strip it down for car mounts, drones, whatever. To me, it's just such a utility camera. It's great. So
I think Red really hit a home run on that one, man.
They did, and the back order was crazy. I mean, people waited upwards of 7 months for it from when they ordered it. So I got to the point where we ordered it and it was back ordered, and when she kind of gave me like the order sheet on my birthday, I was calling like every other day. I was calling Adorama like, hey, is it ready? They're like, we don't know. And then so I finally just kind of like stopped, it was just like, it'll arrive when it arrives. I'm just gonna keep doing my thing. And then, last week, actually on our anniversary,
that's awesome.
So it was pretty cool. So she was like, well, I guess there's your anniversary present too. So it was kind of funny, but I was glad to get it, and I was really happy with what I got with it last night. So I'm excited to use it. We have another show tonight in Asheville, so I'm going to use it there, and then excited to kind of get into some narrative stuff and some short films and use it there.
That's what kind of I wanted to ask about that. What are some of your goals? Where are you looking to head for your DOP work?
This past year was the first year I actually jumped into the film festival scene. A friend here in town wrote a great script, and he hit me up about it, and we shot it, and he submitted it here to the Knoxville Film Festival. And I was actually on tour at the time, so I didn't get to go see the premiere of it. But we actually won Best Leading Role, Best Cinematography, and there was one other award we won. But it was kind of emotional for me because I've never won an award for my work. So getting that cinematography award was very humbling, and it felt very warm inside to win that. So I think that kind of has really made me hungry to do more short films. I have a whole notebook here in my office of just like 1 sentence plots for shorts that, this winter, once we're all cooped up inside, I really have to go in and develop that and start writing some scripts,
I love that,
and
man.
finding the time to do that and do that. Cause I think, my goals coming up are, to jump in to do some more narrative stuff. Definitely continue the touring. I think within that, just how to innovate it, how to kind of set my work apart, to make it unique and really find my style. And kind of being at that festival with Danny Clinch, he kind of had a whole gallery of his work, and that really sparked my interest to, maybe doing some, some of the film shots that I take, because I've kind of jumped into the world of shooting film and want to get in the medium format and stuff like that.
Welcome to Alice's Wonderland, man, and welcome to the rabbit hole. It goes deep. I just dropped off a roll to get developed tonight. Yeah.
Yeah. I've already got my head down the hole, and I'm about to dive right in. But
what do you like to shoot? What type of film you like? Are you a Kodak, Fuji, Portra, Gold?
Yeah, I kind of roll with Portra 400 and 800, mainly 400, but nice. I've been doing 800, so kind of like a little trick of my trade is I actually, for my digital photos, I have a bunch of film stock emulations. Nice. And so like Portrait 800 is kind of my go-to for editing,
for your
my digital.
Nice.
But there's a great camera store here in town that has a lot of experimental film as well, like bubble film and
very cool.
Like all this like kind of like wacky and wonky. So that's fun to do. If an artist hits me up and they want to do a shoot for cover work or album covers or anything, it's just and right now all I'm shooting on is just a little 35 millimeter Contax point and shoot. Nothing fancy.
Dude, I've got 3 film cameras that I love, and they're all Canon, but I one's a little Canon Sure Shot, little point and shoot, and it takes amazing photos as long as I'm in highlight, because it doesn't focus or expose quite correctly in slightly lower light. And then I've got the Canon 1N, EOS 1N, which is the last SLR that they released before they released the 5D 5D Mark 1, and it's big old chunky thing, but man, it takes amazing photos. It like amazing, and that uses all the EOS lenses and like next level. But then I also have a little EOS KISS X7, which is like the Rebel, the international version of the Rebel film camera. Dude, like I love them. But you can go back to some of the old Nikons, the old Leicas.
Oh yeah. I have over here on my bookshelf, I have a whole shelf just of old vintage film cameras. Yeah, most awesome. Probably don't work, but it's it's kind of like my little camera museum.
That's awesome.
But no, I've actually been shooting a lot of film on tour, and I was talking with our tour manager and just how I wish we could just do nothing but film, because when you get the scans back,
they're beautiful.
I mean,
it's amazing.
You don't even have to edit them.
I don't do any touch up.
I don't touch them at all.
They're just perfect, and especially if you've got a good camera that's so nice. So here's one of the cool things that I was talking to these guys that there's some guys that I know out of Texas, Hindi Amp Studios. He's got some cool stuff. They did put some cool stuff up, right? Well, they were shooting on Blackmagic, but then they got an adapter and they were shooting some old glass, like old 1960s glass. So they were using some of the manual focus, and I was reading up. So some of the people with the Blackmagic are shooting with the old Canon lenses from like the 70s and stuff, and they have this there's some type of coating that they used on those old lenses that you just can't get anymore. And it's buttery, man. And so,
oh yeah. Yeah, I know. I see a lot of those old Canon FD lenses kind of floating around and stuff. So yeah, I think my next,
the 50 f1.4, man, is a beautiful little lens. 50 FD 1.4. I had that because I was shooting on I had an old Canon, and it took amazing photos. So.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is something I love. Yeah. I love film photography.
I talk this all day. But yeah, it's film I think is just timeless.
Yeah.
Like we said, you don't even have to touch it. It's just organically, it's just
organically
beautiful.
Well, one of the
Yeah.
other things too, and I talked to this is a cool thing. So you'll be happy to know that you're making like old DPs proud, man, because I was talking to my friend Andrew, and when I started talking about how I was brought up on film, even though I was like, I'm not that much older than you. I'm probably 20 years older than you. I don't know how old you are, but I'm 42. And so
I was going to say 32.
32. Well, thank you, man. I take care of myself. I appreciate that. But I grew up right at the edge, right when digital was coming out. But my dad, he was drilling me on training on film. You got to learn film. One of the things that I noticed is like, one of the things with film is you got 36 shots or 24 shots, and you can't review them. There's no, and one of the things I always notice with digital, and it's like, and it's really helpful.
That's
it's
me during a concert.
Right? And me too. I'm constantly checking, right? But with film, I have to spend more time like thinking and going, all right, just, I hope this works. I hope it's right. But yet I'm also more careful with my shots. I really have to put more thought into what I'm doing. And it forces me to kind of choose better angles, because like when I'm shooting digital, I can be like, it's not quite the angle I want. Oh, that's better.
Yeah.
Versus when I'm on film, I really have to sit there and go, no, there it is. Boom.
It's really a thought process. Versus digital. And it's kind of the suspense, but the thrill of you took it. All right. You get what you get, and some of my favorite film shots I've gotten have been the imperfect ones.
Yes.
Some of the, shutters that, were maybe a little bit slower than they should have been, and you get the blur or almost like a double exposure.
Yeah.
Something that's, you can replicate digitally, but you can't fully replicate it like you can with film.
One of my best roles was my daughter got a hold of my film camera, and one of my cameras doesn't latch correctly on the back, so I kind of put a little piece of like tape over it. She pulled off the tape and it popped up, and I was like, no! I slammed it back shut. But that light leak,
get you some light leak, yeah.
It was
like
beautiful.
A painting. It's like a painting.
I just developed it and I was like, oh, it's beautiful. Thank you. Don't do that again, but thank you for that. It was really special.
The film burns and the light leaks.
If I couldn't do it if I tried it on purpose, I would have messed it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's just spontaneous. Now,
and digitally these days, people, try to replicate that. And some people, do a pretty good job, but, I've never seen anything that's like, that's exactly like it is on film. But it's cool people pay an ode to, techniques like that.
Right. There was one guy that I saw based out of Thailand that was like, this dude was like the master of double exposures. And it was just insane, this type of the double exposure layers that he was doing. And I was just like, and I've seen people do that with Photoshop, but the idea of being able to pull that off with a film is just, it's nuts, man.
Yeah.
Now, asking you this question, if you could go back in time and give your younger self some advice, what advice would you give yourself?
Man, that's a good one. I think where I'm at currently, I'm very happy. So I don't know if there's a lot of changes I would make, but, I would, I guess it would honestly be kind of geared towards gear. You don't need the $6,000 camera.
Yes.
To make it, my first camera was like a $200 Rebel.
Yep.
And I used that for a while, and there's people out there that still use that same camera, and I see some great images. So don't get caught up in the rat race of trying to get to the top of, I have this and this and this. Just,
go shoot.
To say I have. Just get out there and go do it,
Yeah.
And just stay hungry with it. Don't, for me, and everybody's different. Some people do best when they just hone in on one specific aspect, whether it's like food photography, music, portraits. For me, I like to live by balance of opposites. So
I love that.
I, you know, I don't want to get burnt out too much in one aspect. So, after being on the road for 2 weeks on tour, I want to come home and, you know, go to the mountains, right here and take some landscape or do some portraits or just put a camera down. So I think it's, work hard, but also take mental health to consideration, just as much as working, because, you got to be able to recharge. You got to be able to, gather that energy, to take into the next project, because, you see people out there on social media that just seem like they're just putting out work. And it's, I'd rather have 2 amazing projects a month rather than have 4 projects that I'll look back on and say, maybe I didn't put all that I had into it.
Yeah. Right.
So well, I think just kind of budgeting yourself, just taking care of yourself. It seems hard at times when everybody else is just, going and going and going to putting it down and taking some you time and really, just kind of, building back up to having that energy to get out there and get going again.
No, if I had Aladdin's lamp, genie pops out, what would you wish for?
There's a lot, man. If I had to do, let's see. I really enjoy what I have going with the music industry right now. I think if I had one wish, and this would be kind of like a specific piece of work that I want to make, the Lumineers, and I feel like I tell everybody this because they came out with an album. I don't know, maybe it's been about 2 or 3 years now, but it was a 10-11 track record, but they also made this short film broken up into each song, so it was like a 10-11 part film, but it kind of had to do with a family and addiction and kind of like a lineage story, kind of down 2 or 3 generations, and it was so powerful. And that's kind of like my inspiration, for, in my mind, I'm like, one day I'm going to find, an artist that, has something like this, and we're going to make something like that. So as far as specific wish is to, to find that artist and make something like that. I'll have to send it to you. I mean, it's beautifully shot. It's very inspiring. But I think a wish for my future is just to keep the balance.
I like that.
The older I get, and being able to do what I do, but being able to put it down and spend time with my wife, my family, my friends, take time for myself. But being able just to pick it right back up and getting out on the road. I feel like that, it's hard for me sometimes to get out of that, work mode, even coming off like a 2-week shoot, sitting here, and it's hard to turn it off because you're always kind of trying to think of like, all right, what's next? What am I going to do next? Not necessarily, physically going to do it, but it's just kind of always on your mind. So just kind of being able to shut it off and just kind of, live and enjoy the inspiration around you without, looking through a lens.
I like that. Well, brother, I really appreciate your time, man. I want to say thank you for your story and for coming on, man.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. This has been great. I love the platform you're building. I think, there's not enough of, this out here where creatives can kind of just come talk and just kind of share their stories and, how they're navigating, their passion and everything. So I think, I've listened to some of the other ones, and I've taken mental notes from them that, have helped me just, even in the past couple of months. So I really appreciate you having me on. I was psyched when you reached out to me. So it's been a lot of fun.
I really appreciate that, brother. I felt like we disproportionately hear stories of people that we're told should be famous and important. And those people's lives seem really easy because they're painted as easy. But, you know, the rest of us, I don't know about you, but I think most of the people I know, they deal with struggles every day.
Absolutely.
And to get through your day and to keep trying to do what you want to do and to keep dreaming, you got to hear how other people are doing. And that's one of the things for me that, like, you had made a point, like, sometimes there's just this, you have to get in and it's trial by fire. You know what I mean? And you get there, but, like, sometimes the biggest gift that we can give another person is information.
Absolutely.
And just help them on the way, man. God knows I need a lot of it every now and then.
Absolutely. I mean, there's things that I've thought that I've wanted to do, you know, types of shoots and
right.
aspects in this industry that, you know, I was like, I really want to do that. And then I ended up doing it. And I was like, you know, I don't know if that was, you know, it wasn't what I thought it was.
Right.
And, you know, there's, you know, someone out there maybe needs to hear that. You know, don't knock it till you try it. But, you know, also, you know, be prepared that some of the things you think you want to do, it's not what it's, you know, turns out to be, but, you know, that could open up a new page somewhere else.
Yeah, agreed, man. Well, we should definitely bring you back on when you get something fun to talk about. You're always welcome, man. That's awesome.
I'd love to, yeah.